So Ecclesiastes chapter 2 is basically a continuation of chapter 1, going on this same trend of, the things of this world just aren't worth that much, really. When it all comes down to it, what good is wealth and fame and fortune and wisdom if it can't be really used, if you're going to lose it all anyways? So verse 1, he says here, I said in mine heart, go to now, I will prove thee with mirth. Therefore enjoy pleasure, and behold, this also is vanity. So he's like, I tried to go out and enjoy life, but it was hollow. It was temporary. Verse 2, I said of laughter, it is mad, and of mirth, what doeth it? I sought mine heart to give myself unto wine, yet acquainted my heart with wisdom, and to lay hold on folly, till I might see that was that good for the sons of men, which they should do under heaven all the days of their life. I made me great works. I builded me houses. I planted me vineyards. I made me gardens and orchards, and I planted trees in them of all kinds of fruit. I made me pools of water to water therewith the wood that bringeth forth trees. I got me servants and maidens, and had servants born in my house. Also I had great possessions of great and small cattle above all that were in Jerusalem before me. I gathered me also silver and gold, and the peculiar treasure of kings and of the provinces. I gat me men singers and women singers, and the delights of the sons of men as musical instruments, and that of all sorts. So I was great, and increased more than all that were before me in Jerusalem. Also my wisdom remained with me. And whatsoever mine eyes desired, I kept not from them. I withheld not my heart from any joy, for my heart rejoiced in all my labor, and this was my portion of all my labor. Then I looked on all the works that my hands had wrought, and on the labor that I had labored to do, and behold, all was vanity and vexation of spirit. There was no profit under the sun. So I'm going to pause here for just a second and kind of recap this coming in. So again, this is the king going, I have built great things. I have built great works. I have done these great things. I have amassed wealth. I have amassed wisdom. I've got servants. I've got entertainment. I've got all these great things. I've explored fun. I've explored laughter. I've explored wealth. I've explored vacationing. I've explored all these things that sound like fun to do for my life. But it all really doesn't add up. It all will go away at some point and be gone. And so it's not really as profitable as you think. And this is, it's funny. I don't know if any of you are millionaires or billionaires. It'd be nice if you are. But here's the thing that's interesting is I've heard from people who have been at those levels of wealth, and they think like the world changes, all their life changes. It gets so much better when they have all this wealth. And then they reach that point and realize my life isn't better because of the wealth. It's different. Absolutely. I can buy what I want, but I wouldn't say it's better. I'm not happier because I have it. In fact, Jack Canfield tells a story of a gentleman that I don't know the name of this guy. I don't know if Jack ever reveals it in any of the times he's told this story, but he talked with a gentleman one day, and he says this guy thought the whole secret to life was to be a millionaire. And so he worked hard building a business, spent all of his energy putting this business together, and he became a millionaire. And he thought, this is it. I'm a millionaire. I have made it in life. This is the good time of life. And he still had problems. He still had challenges. He still had issues to deal with. And it wasn't quite what he thought it was going to be. So he thought, maybe my job in life is to become a billionaire. So he worked on becoming a billionaire, and he had all this money. He could buy all this stuff, go on vacations and boats and houses and planes and cars and all kinds of stuff. And he attributed the first part of his life to what he called accumulation of stuff. Stuff must make me happy. He bought a bunch of stuff, wasn't happy. So then he thought, I need bigger stuff. So he bought bigger stuff, was getting into buying sports teams and all kinds of other things. And nothing was making him happy. And so he thought, I need to do something different. I need different stuff. So he used his wealth to build different kinds of businesses or do different kinds of things to get different stuff in his life. And he wasn't happy. He just couldn't find happiness in his life. He had a buddy one day that said, hey, I'm collecting wheelchairs. Do you want to help me with this? He's like, yeah, sure, I'll come help you with that. This, I'm kind of in between projects, so I'll come help you. So he takes this guy and he says, what we do is we go get wheelchairs from places that are getting rid of them. And then we get them all on a plane and we charter this plane down to South America and we give these wheelchairs to kids who they can't afford to have wheelchairs down there. So we give them to these kids as donations. So he's like, yeah, sure, sounds like fun. Well, I'll go with you and just see what it's like. So he goes down there and is handing out wheelchairs. And he has this one young man that was born without legs. And he helps this young man into a wheelchair. And he takes that wheelchair and he's like, here you go, kid. This is great. Now you got a wheelchair you can wheel around in. That young man grabbed him and reached up and grabbed his face with his hands and brought it right down and looked him right in the eye. And he says, I want to memorize your face. Because when we get to heaven, I want to thank you for how you have changed my life. And this gentleman at that moment realized what happiness was. And that was helping other people better their lives. And so he changed what he did in his life. Instead of accumulating stuff, he used his wealth to help other people. And that made a big difference in his life. And so I think that's kind of what the preacher is getting at in here, is realizing you can have lots of cool stuff and have lots of nice things, but it still doesn't fully fulfill you inside. And if you've ever had lots of stuff, you can probably attest to this as well. So it is not, winning the lottery, becoming super wealthy isn't all it's cracked up to be. You still got problems. You still got issues to deal with. It's looking for that true happiness inside is what we want. And that's hard to find outside of one of the number one principles of the gospel, which is charity. Now, you can find this more when you add God to that charity, and you can do more of finding God, having him with you as well, which is a great thing. But I think that's what the preacher's getting at in these verses, basically, is I had whatever I wanted. I didn't want for anything. I didn't hold anything back. If I wanted it, I went and got it. I'm still not happy. So let's move on with verse 12. He said here, and I turned myself to behold wisdom and madness and folly, for what can the man do that cometh after the king? Even that which hath been already done. Then I saw that wisdom excelleth folly, as far as light excelleth darkness. The wise man's eyes are in his head, but the fool walketh in darkness. And I myself perceived also that one event happeneth to them all. So again, good and bad happens to smart people and to idiots. It's kind of random in some ways, but the wise man has some opportunities here. In verse 15, he says, Then I said in my heart, as it happeneth to the fool, so it happeneth even to me. Why was I then more wise? Then I said in my heart, this also is vanity. For there is no remembrance of the wise more than of the fool forever. Seeing that which now is in the days to come shall all be forgotten. And how dieth the wise man? As the fool. So the fool and the wise man still die. They still go away. And sometimes the fool gets remembered more than the wise. Why is my life any different than somebody else's? I might have lots of cool stuff, lots of great things going on, but in the end, I'm really not that much better off than a fool, than a homeless person. So what's making the difference here? So verse 17, he says, Therefore I hated life, because the work that is wrought under the sun is grievous unto me. For all is vanity and vexation of spirit. So he's getting in this idea of, this kind of existentialism of, what's the point of any of it if it all goes away? Now, verse 18, Yea, I hated all my labor which I had taken under the sun, because I should leave it unto the man that shall be after me. So why should I work? When I die, somebody else is going to come take my stuff. So what's really the point? Again, he's having a bit of an existential crisis in this chapter. Now, verse 19, And who knoweth whether he shall be a wise man or a fool? Yet shall he have rule over all my labor wherein I have labored, and wherein I have showed myself wise under the sun. This is also vanity. Therefore I went about to cause my heart to despair of all the labor which I took under the sun. For there is a man whose labor is in wisdom, and in knowledge, and in equity. Yea, to a man that hath not labored therein shall he leave it for his portion. This also is vanity and a great evil. For what hath man of all his labor, and of the vexation of his heart, wherein he hath labored under the sun? For all his days are sorrows, and his travail grief. Yea, his heart taketh not rest in the night. This also is vanity. For there is nothing better for a man than that he should eat and drink, and that he should make his soul enjoy good in his labor. This also I saw, that it was from the hand of God. This is an important point. He says, look, this life is not about amassing stuff. This life is about having your needs met and really enjoying life through understanding God, through the scriptures, through being kind and nice, through seeking happiness and joy rather than seeking stuff. In fact, in verse 25 it says, for who can eat, or who else can hasten hereunto more than I? It's like, who can do more than I've done? I mean, he was king, he had everything. Verse 26, for God giveth to a man that is good in his sight wisdom and knowledge and joy. But to the sinner he giveth travail, to gather and to heap up, that he may give to him that is good before God. This also is vanity and vexation of spirit. So again, God helps those who follow him. God blesses those. He helps them to have a better life. It's not about the stuff. It's about following God. Keeping his commandments, doing what he has asked us to do, helps us so that we have that joy from God in our life. This life doesn't have a lot of joy in and of itself. There's some happiness that's short-term, short-lived, but God has real joy. And you can't get it unless you follow God. You can't get it unless you do what God says. That's kind of a hard, fast rule of the commandments and the scriptures. If you want those blessings, you've got to follow the laws, follow what God wants you to do. So that's what this preacher is getting at, basically, is I should have followed God more. I should have just pursued the building up of my soul rather than the building up of my wealth and fame. Because it doesn't really matter. My soul goes with me to the next life. My relationship with God goes with me to the next life. Everything else stays. I can't take it with me. So that's the idea that I believe he's getting at here, basically. So let's jump over to our next chapter as we continue more wisdom from the preacher.